Hi everyone, it's me, Tim. Today I want to talk about overanalyzing games. This is something a lot of people do. They like to take a game and analyze it. But if I want to be less charitable, they like to take a game and they like to pick at it and just pick at it and pick at it and pick at it. Sometimes they do this without even playing the game. They heard about it. They heard a description. They saw a trailer. This happens for TV shows too, but I'm going to stick to just games. I mean, I was shocked the other day when I saw a reviewer reviewing a show he hadn't watched. He based it entirely on a trailer. Anyway, you can pick at this game so much, right down to its core, and then something is lost. That's kind of what I want to warn you about. I'm not saying don't do this. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I am warning you. If you overanalyze anything too much, especially games, you will make yourself unhappy. And let's talk about why. I'll talk about something adjacent to it. Humor. If you've ever had a friend who didn't get a joke that you said, and they asked you to explain it, and you did, you can already tell it's not as funny anymore. It's just not as funny. And the reason for that is explaining anything kind of removes you from the essence of what it is. Just trying to explain a concept to someone doesn't make them understand the concept. Well, it doesn't let them know the concept. It just lets them think they understand it. By the way, that humor thing was a trend for a while. I saw somebody online saying, if someone says something to you that's offensive and they say they're joking, just ask them to explain it. And I was like, well, I mean, I get it that if you ask them to explain it, it won't be funny anymore, and you're trying to get them to be less offensive. So I understand why it works. But just understand that explaining any joke makes it unfunny. Even great jokes can be ruined by people who break it apart. I've mentioned that I went to school with someone who wanted to be a stand-up comic. And sometimes it was exhausting being around him because you'd say something and he'd pick it up and he'd repeat it and he'd say it again and he'd say it again and then he'd ask you if you meant something like this and he'd say it again and he'd rephrase it. And I'm like, dude, chill. You're not on stage. I don't want to develop jokes with you. Just something funny I said. Let it go. By the way, this is also why humor in games is so hard. I've got a video on that. Making a funny game is difficult. Making a game is difficult. Making a funny game is layering more difficulty on top of it. And this is what a lot of people don't get, especially anything that's timely or cultural. I've talked in here, like if you put things in like that in your game, if someone doesn't get it and they have to have it explained to them, something's lost already. Forget that it may not be a joke and you've lost the funny. If you put in a cultural reference that's so obvious that people don't understand what's happening or why the NPC said what they said until someone has to explain it to them, and then they find out, oh, this was based on a funny thing that happened in the news, or this is a weird thing a president said once. It's like, oh, okay. Yay, I guess. And games are very similar to humor in that respect. Too much analysis ruins them. Because they're games. It's a video game. If you attempt to analyze it too much, you will destroy what's cool about the game. Now, you may want to do this to understand a mechanic or a structural foundation or a storyline beat. If that's what you're trying to do, great. But understand you're not going to have as much fun with that game anymore. Because knowing how a mechanic works a certain way, like based on an attribute or a timer or whatever's built into that mechanic, can ruin playing it. You may like, oh, now I understand it. I would love to make a game that uses that. But knowing it works that way can ruin your enjoyment in the game. I know people who play RPGs, sometimes my RPGs, and they make a build they don't like. Or they play a particular build in a way they know they won't enjoy because they wanted that mechanic and they wanted the results in the game that comes from using that mechanic. And then they turn around and go, I didn't like that, and it's your fault. And I'm like, you like run and gun. Why didn't you take the gun skill? Why did you buy speech? Well, there were all these places that I saw the speech skill could be used. And I'm like, but you don't even like talking to NPCs. And he goes, yeah, but I save ammo or I read online. And it's like, guess what? Too much self-reflection like that on a game, too much analysis diving into the game and deciding what you're going to do based on it by developers or gamers can ruin it. For a developer, NPCs explaining everything that's happening in your game is not fun. But for gamers, and for worse, gaming pundits, for lack of a better word, explaining the game's NPCs or the lore or anything else in so much detail that it's like, now it sounds mechanical. It's like it started off of that vampire's trying to kill off the royal family. It's like, well, the reason he's doing it is he had a kid once, but he was still mortal, and then he got turned into a vampire, but he tried to protect the kid, but then the royal family screwed over his kid, and he vowed a vendetta, and what he's doing is he's going through, and first thing he's going to do is ruin their fortune, so now they're the poorest kingdom in the country, and it's going to decimate them economically. At this point, I'm like, I get it. Some people like this. But all of this is forgetting the fun. Fun is a spontaneous thing that arises ineffably from a game. You can ruin it with overanalysis. This overanalysis might be by devs making the game. When you're developing a game, overanalysis can lead to bad things. You may, like I mentioned, you may create an NPC that does forced exposition of lore because you're terrified that someone playing the game may not have seen something on a terminal or read something in a book or noticed one line that the NPC says. So you force exposition and dialogue that can't be skipped, or cutscenes that are forced into the game and are very long because you're like, I'm going to make sure they understand what I'm talking about here. This also leads to checklist games that I've seen people mention before. Like, they play a game and it's like, yeah, it feels like the developer went, yep, we need that feature. Yep, we need characters like this. Yep, we need this kind of dialogue or whatever. Not that they wanted it, not that it supported anything in their design pillars. They just went down the checklist because they had analyzed other games and said, this is what people seem to like, so I'm going to put in more of this. It leads to a cautiousness. I have a whole bunch of videos on game caution. I'll link them below. But this kind of analysis may lead to a lack of exploring new things. If you can't find other games that did this feature, you may go, there was probably a good reason, let's not do it. And then you don't even explore making that feature. And then guess what? Your game comes out and people are like, I've seen all this before. Why didn't they make anything new? Because they were being very analytical. And finally, the thing that I hate is that forced emotion stuff. And this is why I tend not to like romance in my RPGs. It's usually forced on you. You will care about this character. You will care about this storyline or this event. It's completely unearned, but the game kind of pushes it on you because someone read, hey, everybody likes fantasy, everyone likes romance. Let's put it in our game. If it's not done really well and with care, meaning with a lot of time spent on it, which means a lot of money, which means it was part of your budget, which means you did the romance instead of other things. If you don't do that, then it's an unearned thing and it will turn a lot of people off. Now, it sounds like I'm talking to developers here. I'm also talking to gamers. You can do it too. You can take a game that's fun, silly fun, and ruin it by looking for tropes and messages and deeper meanings. Because I guarantee you, if you look hard enough and deep enough in anything, games, books, TV shows, if you look, you will find what you're looking for. You will find a way of tying it into something you know. I know on here I've noticed a trend where people will ask me if a book or a movie or a TV show has influenced one of my games. And if I say no, they seem incredibly, deeply disappointed, to the extent that some of them don't believe me. They're like, oh no, it's too coincidental. All I can say is this. The human condition is universal. Sadness is everywhere. Happiness is everywhere. Illness is everywhere. Bad people are everywhere. You're going to see those in many variations in every piece of entertainment product you get. I would be shocked if some of the ideas that appeared in my games hadn't already appeared in other games and in other mediums well before mine and continue to appear afterwards, even though the people who are making those things have never played any of my games. So what am I saying? What's the point of all this? Ultimately, I want you guys to enjoy things, and especially enjoy my games. And just know that everything doesn't need to be deep. Everything doesn't need to be picked apart into an inch of its life for you to enjoy it. Sometimes you can just like it. I like that. If someone asks you why, it's like, I like it. Got a cool vibe. It was fun. You don't have to explain fun. Same way, I don't have to explain my love of dark chocolate and why white chocolate's hideous. That's what I think. I don't have to explain it to people. And if you want to eat all the white chocolate, more power to you. Ugh. Anyway, I've talked about Shadow Dark on here before. I've got a whole video on Shadow Dark. One reason I like that game is it focuses its attention very narrowly onto it's dangerous going into scary places to look for treasure, but that's where the treasure is. The whole game's based on that. There's no politics, there's no social commentary. It's a pure fun game and I love it. Not every game needs to be like that, but when I remember reading the Shadow Dark, I heard about it and then I bought the Shadow Dark book and I'm like, they get it. They get it. Sometimes a game is just for fun. And yeah, I also have a video about fun. So sometimes just turn your brain off and enjoy a game. It's fun.